In old age, people can openly talk about high blood pressure, aching joints, or rising blood sugar levels, but they shy away when it comes to intimacy. Words like sex or making love seem to turn into taboos, topics never to be mentioned in family conversations, at gatherings, or even between spouses who have lived together for decades. But the undeniable truth is this: intimacy, from holding hands and hugging to physical closeness, is not just a need of the young. It is a core part of both physical and mental health, a heartbeat tied to life itself. And when it disappears, the body and mind of the elderly begin to quietly decline, much faster than we usually think. The saddest part is, this decline is not always recognized. People attribute everything to age. I'm tired because I'm old. Forgetfulness is normal. Poor sleep is just part of aging. Yet behind those seemingly reasonable explanations lies a forgotten cause: the absence of intimacy, the absence of an awakening touch, the absence of feeling loved and desired. This article will uncover the truth few dare to speak about: what really happens to the body, the mind, and the heart when intimacy fades in old age. From here, we will see clearly that love and closeness are not luxuries, but essential to dignity and health, a human right that deserves protection until the very end of life. Neil, at 70, Harold was still considered healthy. He could shop for groceries on his own, tend to his garden, cook meals, and even fix small things around the yard. His routine checkups always showed normal results: stable blood pressure, steady heartbeat, no high blood sugar. Yet deep inside, Harold knew his body had changed. He often woke up feeling sluggish. His heart raced after just a few steps on the stairs. He struggled with sleepless nights, and his memory was no longer as sharp as it once was. He hadn't changed his diet, never skipped his medication, and kept up with daily light exercise. But one thing had been absent from his life for nearly 3 years: intimacy with his wife. Not because of arguments, not because of conflict, but because both had quietly let go. One evening, she said, "I'm tired tonight, maybe tomorrow," and over time, it became routine. He too grew hesitant, afraid he was no longer the man he used to be. And so, silence replaced the touches that once made them feel young. What Harold experienced was far from unique. When intimacy fades, the elderly lose a chain of vital biological reactions. Every act of lovemaking, even if gentle, no longer as fiery as in their 30s, still stimulates the circulatory system. The heart beats faster, but steadily. Blood flows more strongly, joints stay flexible. It is much like a natural cardio workout, helping the body maintain resilience. At the same time, hormones such as oxytocin, endorphins, and serotonin are released, soothing pain, reducing stress, improving sleep, and lifting mood. On the other hand, when intimacy disappears, that entire chain of reactions vanishes with it. The body moves less, circulation weakens, fatigue sets in quickly, inflammation occurs more easily. Happy hormones are no longer released in sufficient amounts, leaving the nervous system tense, sleep restless, and the mind weighed down. That vicious cycle makes the elderly believe they are simply aging naturally, when in truth, they are aging faster because their bodies lack the awakening touch of love. One geriatric doctor once said, "Sex in old age is the most complete form of exercise. Not only please it for the body, but also for the heart, the brain, and self-esteem. And when it is ignored, the body not only weakens, but gradually loses the will to live." The elderly no longer look forward to tomorrow, no longer feel motivated to get up and move, because deep down, they have grown accustomed to feeling untouched, unwanted. The danger lies in how most older people accept this without protest. They tell each other, "That's just old age." But in truth, the body does not weaken because of age, but because it has gone too long without the spark of intimacy. That same body can still be healthy, can still enjoy life, if only it is reminded once again that it is alive, valued, and loved. And that is the difference between merely living longer and truly living. Older people can choose to exist in fatigue, or they can take a single step toward one another and let their bodies come alive again. If the body ages faster without intimacy, then the mind and emotions fade in a quiet yet equally painful way. The story of Ruth, 69, is a clear example. She and her husband had lived together for nearly half a century. They raised children, weathered financial struggles, and shared their modest pension to maintain a steady life. To outsiders, they looked like the perfect couple, devoted, simple, never quarreling loudly. Yet, inside their small, quiet home, Ruth felt an undeniable emptiness. They still had dinner together, still watched the evening news, still exchanged words, but all of it revolved around small matters. How the children were doing, what groceries to buy, how much the bills were this month. It had been a long time since she felt a surprise hug from behind, a hand clasped tightly while shopping, or tender eyes lingering on her. Most of all, they no longer made love. Neil, at first, the reason was simple. He was tired. She was hesitant. Hesitation became distance. Distance became silence, and silence became routine. And as that routine stretched on, Ruth's spirit began to wither. She forgot what it felt like to be anticipated, forgot the joy of a clumsy kiss, forgot the warmth of being held after a long day. Modern science has shown that intimacy, even in the form of light touches, stimulates the brain to release a series of vital neurotransmitters. Dopamine sharpens focus and memory. Oxytocin builds trust and attachment. Serotonin stabilizes mood and helps prevent depression. Endorphins ease pain and bring relaxation. No supplement or pill can replace this natural formula. It only arises when people truly connect with touch, with breath, with the rhythm of two hearts beating together. When those things vanish, the mind slows down like a garden left unwatered. Memories fade. Emotions grow cold. Ruth often forgot simple tasks, and minor irritations easily turned into bursts of anger. Worse still, she began looking into the mirror and failing to recognize herself. Not because her face had changed too much, but because the spark of being desired had disappeared from her eyes. Nedge behind the memory lapses or mood swings of the elderly, it is not always just age or illness. Sometimes it is the silent cry of a soul long untouched, long unawakened by love. And the deepest pain is not loneliness from having no one beside you. It is loneliness even while lying next to the person who once was your whole world. Older people rarely admit this. They stay silent. They accept it. They tell themselves, "I'm past the age of love." But the truth is, the human mind needs affection to the very end. It doesn't require lovemaking every day, but at least some sign that one is still wanted, still cherished. Nedge without it, memory and emotion will wither, like a house gathering dust when its owner no longer cares for it. And that is the most frightening kind of old age. Not wrinkles or gray hair, but a soul that no longer sees itself as lovable or worth living fully. If the body ages faster and the mind slowly fades without intimacy, there is another consequence even more subtle. The body begins to forget how to love. This is not forgetting in memory, but forgetting in gestures, in the natural reactions of the body when faced with closeness. Nedge, Evelyn, 73, is a vivid example. She had lived alone for more than 10 years since her husband passed away. On the surface, she seemed to be doing well. She went to church, walked her dog every morning, baked for the neighbors. To anyone looking from the outside, she appeared to have found peace. Yet only Evelyn knew the emptiness in her heart, a yearning not for companionship, but for real touch, a lingering embrace, a look that reminded her she was still a woman, not just a kind old lady. Then one day, fate led her to cross paths again with Robert, an old college friend. They talked, laughed, took walks, shared coffee, and after a year, affection reignited. Robert gently expressed his desire to be close again. Evelyn agreed, but when the moment finally arrived, her body froze. She didn't know where to place her hands, how to breathe, and her legs trembled with awkwardness. There was no pain, no refusal, just forgetting. The harsh truth is this: if intimacy is absent for too long, the body trains itself to forget reactions that once came naturally. For men, it may mean slower responses, difficulty maintaining arousal, and self-doubt. For women, it may mean dryness, stiffness, lack of fluidity. Above all, it brings shame, the fear of being too old for such things. That shame is more dangerous than any pain. Because when the mind repeats questions like, am I still attractive or do I look ridiculous? People retreat. Retreat becomes distance. Distance becomes neglect. One day, they no longer allow themselves to be loved at all. But the important truth is this: like memory or muscles, the ability to love can be retrained. No one expects the elderly to return to 30, fiery and flawless. All it takes is to start slowly. A hug held longer than usual, a shy kiss, holding hands until the heart beats faster. From there, the body begins to remember. Muscles regain movement, hormones start flowing, awkwardness fades. What returns is not just pleasure, but trust, connection, and the feeling of being alive again. Sex in old age, after all, is no longer about proving virility or conquest. It is a ritual to preserve humanity, the emotions, the connection, the tenderness that time cannot take away. Evelyn realized this in the moment. She trembled before Robert, and only when she whispered, "I'm a little shy, but I miss that feeling," did Robert smile, hold her close, and her body began to remember. Life does not vanish when we grow old. It only falls asleep, waiting for a touch to awaken it. Society often teaches that once people reach their 60s or 70s, sexual needs and intimacy should be left behind. The reasoning sounds logical. The body is weaker, health must revolve around medicine, doctors, and grandchildren. But the truth is entirely different. Love, touch, and moments of closeness remain fundamental human rights, regardless of age. No one is too old to crave and embrace. No one is too late for the heart to tremble at a whisper. No one is wrong to want to touch and be touched, even with gray hair. In fact, intimacy is not a luxury. It is essential for people to continue feeling alive. Many older people believe that romance at this stage is selfish, improper. They fear judgment from their children, ridicule from society, or worry that their bodies are no longer suitable. But if we look deeper, we see that what is truly improper is forcing the elderly to spend their final years in cold silence, surrendering their right to be loved. For there is no law, no rule that can strip away such a basic human need. One study once stated, "The elderly do not feel lonely because they are alone. They feel lonely because there is someone beside them who no longer touches them." Now, this is the tragedy of many families. Two spouses sharing a roof, but living only as roommates. No more hand-holding on the street, no more looks that make the heart race, no more closeness that reminds them they are still desirable. So, how can it be restored? The answer does not lie in grand gestures, but in small, sincere steps. A simple confession, "I miss you." A touch while watching TV. A surprise kiss while washing dishes together. Sometimes, just a sentence, "Can I hold you?" is enough to break years of silence. More importantly, the right to love is not reserved only for couples. Widows, single seniors, those long without intimacy, all can begin again. As Evelyn proved, the body and soul can relearn how to love as long as one allows the chance. And that beginning, however clumsy, however slow, is still far more beautiful than a heart that withers without ever trembling again. Need to love in old age is not to relive youth. It is a new definition. To love in order to stay connected. To love to affirm worth. To love to prove that it is never too late to live fully. Every embrace, every whisper, every act of intimacy is a reminder. We are still human, still worthy of being awaited, still worthy of touch, still able to melt into closeness. In the end, when we look back on life, what makes us smile is not the days we took our medicine on time or paid the electricity bill, which is formative. It is the moments when our hearts trembled from a touch, the nights we rested peacefully in someone's arms, the times we felt not just alive, but loved. When we think of old age, we picture medicine, hospitals, family gatherings, or quiet days with grandchildren. Rarely do we mention love, touch, or intimacy. Yet, as you have seen, These are not luxuries. They are the very essence that keeps the body younger, the mind sharper, and the heart from withering. The absence of lovemaking does more than weaken the body. It dulls memory, freezes emotion, and eventually teaches the body to forget how to love. What is most heartbreaking is how many elderly people accept this as natural, is resigning themselves to live the rest of their days in silence. But the truth is different. The body does not weaken because of age, but because it has gone too long without being awakened by love. The mind does not grow cold because of years, but because it has lacked embraces, touches, and tender whispers. The most important thing to remember is this: love has no age. None of us is ever too old to be loved, too late to begin again, or too late to let the heart tremble once more. A shy kiss, a lingering hug, a small whisper, all have the power to stir the body, soothe the soul, and reignite the flame you thought had faded. So do not let the final years slip by in silence. Allow yourself to love, to be touched, to be tender, to be desired. Intimacy in old age is not about proving anything. It is a reminder that you are still alive, still valuable, and still worthy of love. If you have ever felt lonely, even while lying beside someone, or thought your heart was too old to feel again, remember this: it only takes one small step. One whispered, "I want to hold you," or "I miss that feeling," for everything to begin anew. And in that moment, you will realize life never abandoned you. It was only waiting to be awakened by love.